Am.
People do it. So.
Good.
Okay. You set forth on your journey from the city of Farreach. You take a tiny ship and are beset by a turbulent storm. Your ship is capsized, and you survive only by paddling with the last of your strength to a nearby abandoned island. As you emerge from the surf, hot on your heels are giant crabs, 3 of them, looking for an easy meal. You struggle to your feet, stagger towards the tree line to escape, and are only beset by a shambling cannibal. What's your only escape? Your only escape, the only way to survive this adventure, is to create yourself a Dungeons & Dragons character. Dungeons & Dragons. Today I'm going to walk you through the process of, today I'm going to demonstrate how to build a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons character. I will walk you through the process of choosing your race, class, skills, and equipment to help you survive this encounter and many, many more. The first thing you need to do is introduce the tools of the trade. Dungeons & Dragons is considered a pen and paper RPG, a role-playing game, so you will in fact need pen and paper. You will also need a set of polyhedrals or dice. This includes a D4, 4-sided dice, a D6, a D8, a D10, a die 12, and a die 20, which is the most common one, commonly used. Most sets will actually have 2 D10s, which will roll, one holding the tens place, one holding the ones place to create a D100. It's not common, but it's something that's definitely used. You'll definitely need the player's handbook. This is all the basic elementary rules for the game system, and is it necessary to continue. You can run an entire game off of that single book, but there are dozens of books that have different settings, extra rules, prestige classes and characters. So the system expands well after that. The next thing that you'll need when creating a Dungeons & Dragons character is a concept. It's really, really common for you to pull a concept from books, movie, television shows, even video games. Some of the examples is you can create yourself an Asian Wushu-style warrior from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. You can always do the giant, muscular, skilled barbarians, such as Conan from Conan, Arnold Schwarzenegger from Conan the Barbarian. You can create yourself an honorable and integrity-filled paladin like Captain America, or a sneaky, underhanded, backstabbing spy like Black Widow. And for magic users, there is a large variety of magic users types available in the Harry Potter mythos. So you can find anything from shapeshifters to whatever else Harry Potter. The singing frogs. It's really important to that. All right. So once you have your character concept in mind, your character race is also important. It gives you a variety of background features. There's both male and female. There's standard fantasy races, including humans, elves, dwarves, halflings, gnomes, and then there's half races. You can imagine how half races are created, including half orcs, half elf, and there's different races available in the basic book. This is an older picture, including Dragonborn, which are half human, half dragon, and Tiefling, which are actually half demon, half human. They usually have horns and tails and stuff like that, which is kind of an interesting thing. Each one of these races does have its benefits. For example, the halfling is smaller and more stealthy and dexterous, so they're very hard to notice and very hard to hit because they're small and agile. But on the flip side, they can't run very fast because they're very short and have very short legs, so anything larger can always outpace them in combat. Example, large creatures usually have much higher strength, so if you're building a character that is strength-based, it's ideal to get one of the more stronger characters. Within the book, the race section will also tell you about the mythos behind them, how they see each other, and also common names. So this is some of the basic stuff I've created. I've created Kirkemir Daggerspade. He's going to be a human. Humans offer a lot of variety when it comes to creating a character, so it's an easy way to go. I'll go over some of these other things later, including backgrounds and problematic grade cover alignment. We're going to create a fighter. It's a really easy class to start off with, and being attacked by the crabs, we still have a lot of functionality when it comes to being a fighter. What does he get? The first thing when you're picking your class is you get your hit dice. This is how many health points that you get in creating a fighter. Gets a D10, so he's going to have higher health. He's going to be more resilient. Special class features. It shows second wind, which basically allows them to heal themselves mid-combat, makes them more resilient, meaning they can take more damage. And we're choosing for Kirkamir the ability to dual wield. So he's going to be holding a weapon in each hand as he's fighting, which gives him benefits defensively and offensively. And it also gives him what he's proficient in, for example, weapons and armor. A wizard will not be able to carry a broadsword, whereas a fighter definitely can. Next is stats. We're going to do, instead of rolling stats with the dice that we've seen before, we're going to use a point voice system. Essentially, we're going to pay for the points from a baseline, a level of 10 to a higher level. What stats are, we have the tomato analogy, okay? Strength is, can you crush a tomato, okay? Dexterity, dexterity is, can you slice a tomato thinly? Constitution is, can you eat a rotten tomato? Intelligence is, you know that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put tomatoes in a fruit salad. And charisma is being able to sell a fruit salad with tomatoes in it. So we've arranged those. And the last thing is going to be backgrounds. This is going to give you some concept of what your character started out as and what they believe in, including their ideals as sincerity. Kirkham, there is no reason in pretending to be someone that he's not. So these are things that are built in the character. So what we've covered so far, including this very, very basic alignment for a fighting character. Now at this point, we're using your race, your background, and your skills, weapons. We actually missed the equipment section. Now that you have your own basic character, go ahead and draw your sword and fight your first combat of the many adventures to come.
And I'll call on you in just a second. All right, Carlos, what did you think? Loud and clear, so we get it on camera too.
All right, so first off, your central idea or thesis was like how to build a Dungeons and Dragons character, right? All right. Two things I liked. I mean, I feel like the tomato thing you used that was very like creative, and it helped like kind of visualize how the stats are made, if you will. Your speech was clear, easy to understand, I guess. Two things that I feel like have been improved. I feel like just stating like what the topics are a bit more, like the three main points I should say. And I think that's basically it. The visual aids did help, such as, well, I feel like the visual aids were there, like again, going back to the whole step thing, like the visual aids, like it was there to like represent what you were saying, which is like really cool, I guess. It wasn't like, we're just relying on the visual aids to tell us what was going on. And, I thought it was a good presentation. Good job.
All right, Ryan, the visuals that you used in the start of the speech for the introduction, you guys cannot be talking while I'm talking. It's going to be distracting to me. I'm sorry, I have attention issues and it will throw me off. So please refrain from speaking while I'm talking. Thank you. The visuals that you use at the beginning to tell the story, they're okay. I kind of like that idea that it makes the attention device a little bit more of this kind of visual storytelling thing that you're getting into. They're not necessary, but they work pretty well. The problem is that you do have a lot of pictures that you use during the presentation, and so it may be that it would have been better to maybe simply have one instead of the two that you had. And I think there are a couple of places where the same choice needed to be made. One would have satisfied instead of the two or the three that you had in different spots. Your goal is to demonstrate how to do something, and we're trying to refrain from doing demonstration speeches. Walking us through the process, that's an okay idea. I think that works reasonably well for kind of explaining what's going on here. I do think we need a little bit more context. Probably a lot of people are not familiar with the paper version of Dungeons and Dragons. They may have heard of the game. Some of them may have played it. A lot of people, of course, nowadays, paper, what's that? They're all just, about operating the thumbs, and so they're unfamiliar with these concepts, and you need a little bit more context. You get way caught up in talking about the dice, and it just seemed like I spent a minute hearing about the different kinds of dice without ever knowing why I'm hearing about the dice. So it's probably something that needs to be reduced and made simpler so that it doesn't become, we go off on a dozen different tangents here, which never come back anyway, because we don't really talk about them later on when we're talking about, well, what does your character do in regard to the dice, and how does that connect to anything? And I honestly do not know. The description, you had a pretty straightforward preview that you're going to be talking about the race, the class, and the skills of the characters that you're creating. That makes sense. And you get into that, I can see each of those points while you're speaking. One of the things, though, is that there's not really a very clear transition as you're going from one to the other. You need to help the audience see those kinds of things. They are in the order in which you talked about them. They are there, but as a speaker, you need to kind of point things out along the way for people to pay particular attention to. Everything is not of equal importance. And so you need to remind people, now we're getting to something that's a little bit different. We're shifting gears, we're going in a different place here, and you need to do that a little bit more often. I think it gets, especially because you've got so many visuals that are going along with it, it just feels like it's all one stream instead of, building together. It's, we're being carried away down this stream of a lot of stuff that's happening. I assume that most of your information probably comes from that handbook, and so you ought to reference it a little bit more often. You didn't really say that. It seems to me like some additional outside resources would have been helpful. I imagine that people have been writing about these things, that there are guides, there are other games that people use, that people have done reviews or talked about games that they've done, so it feels a little bit underwhelming in terms of content, except that it's just descriptive of these very basic categories. Like I said about the visuals, it seems like you have a lot, and you need to simplify a little bit. You've got the full and the half, and you've got the pop culture character references that go along with that. You've got the chart on strength and on the skills, those kinds of things. By the way, both of those are a little small to see. Even though they are up on the screen, it's a little bit hard to see in all parts of the audience. So that's, I think, something that, again, there might have been a way to simplify it. I know you have access to those things did you create all those images, or are those things right out of the handbook or something like that?
A lot of them are out of the handbook, but I spent a good half of preparation for this ad study fighting with the software.
Yeah, it sometimes is problematic. You know, like I said, simple is sometimes the better way to go, but I didn't think there was anything that was bad about what you were doing. It just, like I said, it was a little bit hard to see sometimes. We're not emphasizing delivery things too much, but you want to be careful about putting your hand in your pocket, and you get that piece of paper in your hand that ends up being waved around a little bit. As we go along, we're trying to get rid of all those things, so that'll be something to think about in the future. All right, let's stop there.